Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Nuggets News. In tonight's video, I just want to discuss the mainstream adoption we're slowly starting to see of cryptocurrencies and how I believe money is going to flow from the stock market into cryptocurrency. And previously, we've sort of seen gold and silver traditionally as the safe assets and alternate assets, but I think cryptocurrency is now establishing itself as another asset class that's uncorrelated to stock markets. Okay, so I've spoken in the past about how mainstream news sites like MarketWatch.com are the first ones to kind of bash Bitcoin and Ethereum crypto when there's a large drawdown in price and whatnot. But they've got to acknowledge this now when the price rebounds so strongly and it wasn't a bloodbath. And they have for this article here, Bitcoin and Ethereum delivering the best results in 2017 so far. So they've got to flip-flop a bit, and they're starting to see more articles in a positive light as well as a negative light. Like I said, they've got to save face a bit if this stuff continues to thrive, and they've been seen as talking it down. So I just want to discuss an interview by Steve Keen. And Professor Steve Keen is an economics professor, an Australian guy who predicted the last financial crisis, and he's really critical of the Federal Reserve and central banks around the world becoming out of touch with reality and driving the sort of the wealth gap and disparity gap between rich and poor. But Janet Yellen last night, who's the head of the US Federal Reserve, she came out and said she doesn't see another financial crisis in our lifetime. And I think it just shows how out of touch with reality these people are that live in their sort of ivory towers. And Steve's sort of calling her out here and saying she shouldn't be the chair of the Federal Reserve. But we've seen this before, and Ben Bernanke was the Federal Reserve chairman at the time, and 2 months before the last financial crisis, he came out and said that he believes current economic conditions are the best they've seen in years, and sure enough, 2 months later, we had a financial crisis. So I just want to point this out as I think these guys are they going to get blindsided by the way things unfold in the future, and cryptocurrency is going to be an asset class that people go into, and I just want to demonstrate this last night. So going into the 28th, here on a 15-minute chart, we saw the S&P 500, the largest traded sort of stock market in the world in America, sell off sharply here. And I just want to show the 15-minute Bitcoin chart of the same time frame. And as we go into the 28th here, this money's going into Bitcoin. And this is a really interesting development. And maybe it's happened before, not that I've noticed in any significant fashion, but if this trend continues, anytime there's a bit of volatility or sell-off in the stock market, even if we just see a tiny portion of the billions of dollars that slosh around the markets in America, I think I've said before that more money goes through the US stock market each day than goes through Las Vegas in a year. So it only takes a tiny bit of money to push this Bitcoin and cryptocurrency's market cap up significantly. And I'm just going to go over a few other related articles now. So Pantera Capital want to raise $100 million to invest in ICOs and a sort of hedge fund for ICOs of sorts that they said they're going to trade and whatnot. But this is just the tip of the iceberg if we start to see these guys want to pour in the big money into cryptocurrency. The next article is here's one closer to home, sort of saying that ASIC, the Australian Securities and Investment Commission, they're unlikely to regulate ICOs, and I don't see how they can as it's in different jurisdictions and whatnot. But this article here is, I think he's a little bit out of touch with how the technology works, but he's sort of saying his argument is that he thinks we should have centrally issued digital currency. So he wants the banks to issue their own cryptocurrency, and that just defeats the whole purpose of decentralized cryptocurrencies. But anyway, interesting article just to have a look at. And again, one article from the US here, the Commodities Futures Trading Commission has sort of said that they want more money because they want to keep an eye on this stuff and see how it's all unfolding. And I've spoken in the past about Digix and how they have got gold on an asset ledger of sorts. And I think as we see this play out, a lot of these companies and exchanges, they're going to have to put assets on a ledger of some sort. We can't just see companies trading oil or gold or whatever it may be, and banks swapping derivatives and options and who owns what if it goes pear-shaped. And having assets on a ledger is going to be a theme that continues to develop going forward, okay? And really interesting to see the CFTC ask for more money from Congress to watch how this all unfolds and learn about the technology. So another good article here, the World Bank wants to launch a blockchain lab, and sort of they think it can be a means to ending poverty and restoring trust. So We've seen a lot of charities that only put minimal percentages of what you actually donate to the foreign countries or the actual charity. And with blockchain technology, we know that it only takes a smartphone to send to Africa or whatnot. And again, they're saying that this sort of ledger technology and blockchains is a good step that can help solve the world poverty issues. So really good to see them talk about that. Another article here, World Economic Forum recently published a blockchain article where they really see this stuff as basically almost compulsory for world economies, as they at the moment they're loosely meshed together through the internet and whatnot. But the paper argues for the creation of a network that would include innovators, venture capitalists, financial institutions, academics, government agencies, and individuals. And blockchain and having a ledger ties all this stuff together in a sort of immutable code. And this is where I see all this stuff going in the future, okay? Really cool stuff, and it's great to see the World Economic Forum acknowledge cryptocurrency. If you had told me this a few years ago when it was just sort of guys talking about crypto on Reddit threads and whatnot, I wouldn't have believed this mainstream adoption is coming so fast, and I still think we're only at the precipice of where this is all going to go in the future. So now this is something I've talked about a fair bit recently, the coming Bitcoin fork, and here we see N-Chain maybe getting a bit of criticism for an argument they put forward about how SegWit's going to be a good thing. And this article is basically talking about if they do the segregated witness, the SegWit upgrade, it's going to face problems under current US law. So whenever you do a transaction and you're signing a digital signature and the blocks get mined and whatnot, they're sort of arguing in these side chains, and if we have Lightning networks and SegWit and all this sort of thing, is an electronic signature going to be the same as a legal signature when we start transacting money and that sort of thing? And this, like I said, I think these arguments are going to get messy. There's going to be two sides for all these debates as we talk about increasing block size or implementing SegWit and SegWit 2x and that sort of thing. And please watch my videos about the Bitcoin hard fork for more thoughts on how I think that's going to play out. So, just lastly here, like I said, it's great to see some positive articles and a bit of mainstream adoption, but we always get the pushback. So, US Senate looking to pass a bill that could threaten Bitcoin innovation, and as usual, they put this under the guise of terrorism, money laundering, counterfeiting. If you want to stop that, the US dollar's the number one used currency for funding terrorism in the world. But anyway, like I said, these guys want to push their agenda. They don't want this stuff to succeed. And I think it's a case of if you don't adapt, you're going to be left behind. And I've spoken about the countries that have already adopted it and are seeing the positive benefits, like Japan, China, and Russia now talking about Ethereum. But adapt or be left behind, I think, is the message. And if they want to outlaw it, there's going to be another country that rules it legal. And even states in the US, I think Nevada, have ruled that they're going to treat Bitcoin as a tax haven. So just want to get that out there. Starting to see some positive articles. The price has rebounded strongly. This stuff is long-term growth, so don't get too fussed about the short-term fluctuations in price. Thanks to the guys who have had one-on-ones with me recently. Please get in contact if you'd like a one-on-one session to go in more detail, my thoughts on certain topics. And thanks for tuning in, guys.